And welcome back to our candidates' video sit-downs for 2014. Next up, John Komen. He's the guy on camera, Dsitrict Allen off camera. We're moving to the PUD number 3, Commissioner District 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah, District 2 Commission race. John Komen is the challenger. So, John, take a couple of minutes to tell everybody about yourself, your background, why you're running, and why you feel you are the best candidate.
Well, that's a big order, I suppose, but the reason I'm running simply is I want to reform the governance culture of PUD 3. By that I mean the 3 commissioners' governance culture, because they're the ones who set the tone, set the policy, set the budgets, raise the rates for PUD 3. Right now, and for the past 5.5 years, that commission has been split 2-to-1. And the 2-to-1 margin, or majority, has resulted in some horrendous expenses for PUD 3. I can run them down, and I will a little bit later, but right now I'm running to reform that. And all it takes is one more commissioner, me, to change that 2-to-1 margin or majority that's been spending so much money. Why do I run? That's why I run. Reform the governance culture. Why am I qualified? Well, I think my qualifications are quite good. I'm a cum laude graduate of the University of Washington. I have experience in executive experience. I have run newsrooms. I've been around the country. I've reported on government, all kinds of government, for many, many years. I think I know how government operates. I think I know how I can effectively represent the 32,500 ratepayers of PUD 3. So I think when you match the two of us, there's no comparison. I think I come out very, very well. The reform of the governance structure is really the key of it. 5 years ago, just in the depths of the Great Recession, I started attending commissioner meetings, because I had heard they were going to spend a lot of money. And they were. And I would rise in protest. Other people from the public would come in and rise in protest. And the issues were $41 million for a new building out on Johns Prairie. Leave Shelton, abandon 3 buildings in downtown Shelton, and move out to the Johns Prairie Road. Another issue was the accumulation of more debt on PUD 3. $71 million more in debt, increasing the debt to almost $160 million in interest and principal payments on the debt. Another issue was building a water pipeline along Johns Prairie Road to the tune of $1,780,000. And each of these issues, the deciding vote, the swing vote, was by my opponent, the man who's trying to seek another 6-year term. Why do I say he ought not to be there? Because if you re-elect him, and he has this propensity to spend, then I think you're in danger of finding more of that sort of spendthrift actions on the part of the incumbent. If he had cast the votes correctly against these huge, horrendous expenditures, PUD 3 would be in a far better position than it is now. But he abrogated his fiduciary responsibility by voting for these expenditures. If we hadn't spent all that money, PUD 3 might be in a position to reduce rates rather than raise them. We don't need that sort of spendthrift action by our elected commissioners. They are not there to represent themselves. They are there to represent the ratepayers, the public.
Okay, John, can I stop you here?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's just move on to our questions because we're getting off topic here.
Sure.
So I'm going to move on to the first question here. What can you do to ensure that electricity rates can remain affordable?
Well, first off, we shouldn't have passed those spending measures. That has put about 10% more on your bill. The second thing is, when you become a commissioner, you are there to protect the resources of PUD3, not spend them. So you would have to act as a guardian of the PUD3 expenditures, a guardian of the public's money, in effect. So what would I do to protect against rate increases? I think you're going to have rate increases no matter what you do, but you can hold them down. And if you do succeed in watching every bit of expenditure by PUD's budget, I think you can effectively counter some of those huge expenditures that come down the line, those increases in rates. So I would simply be more of a guardian over what is spent day by day at PUD3.
So what are you doing, or what is the PUD doing to limit power outages, and how can that be improved?
Well, you know, you can't battle Mother Nature. Mother Nature comes down the pike and blows over a tree onto a line. There's no way you can avoid that. What would I do to improve that? Well, I think PUD3 does its job. I see them out there when power outage is out. I'm not certain that there's anything more they can do.
Fair enough. Should the PUD expand its fiber optics infrastructure?
Fiber optics has been a lost leader for PUD3 for some time, ever since they established it. I think that you have to examine how much they're expending for fiber optics and how much they're getting back by customers who are using fiber optics. I'm not sure that they're making any money at all. I'm not sure they're even breaking even. So you'd have to examine how big is their staff, how much do they expend per customer on fiber optics, and how much are they getting back. So fiber optics, I think you have to really look at it.
What about the aging electrical infrastructure, not necessarily just in the PUD, but pretty much nationwide?
Well, nationwide, of course, you've got a terrible problem. Infrastructure ages, no matter what you do. And I think you have to have good maintenance. Nationally, it's a terrible situation. Here, I think they're maintaining it, and they will maintain it. If you talk about the PUD3 facilities, I don't see any real problem with other than natural aging of the infrastructure.
Now, we kind of touched on this in the beginning, but what is the PUD? Is the PUD spending too much money on its facilities, and how would you change that?
Well, I would change it by stopping the spendthrift activities, the spendthrift philosophy that has been pursued by the majority on that commission, the 2-to-1 majority. You've got to stop that. You simply cannot spend the public's money the way they've been spending it. Millions of dollars gone out. Should not have. And people say, well, John, you sound a bit angry about that. Well, I am angry about that, and I think every one of the 32,500 ratepayers ought to be angry too, because they're spending their money. And twice during that 5-year period that I was down there watching them, they had the opportunity to submit these issues to the voters. Let the voters decide. They never did. They voted 2-to-1 against putting it on the ballot, or against sending out maybe a note in their bills. Let us know what you think of spending all this money. Kind of a what would you call it? A
survey?
Yeah, a survey. Twice they refused to do that. Now the public has a right to vote. On November 4th, they will be able to pass judgment on whether the PUD3 commissioners acted properly or improperly in expending all that money unnecessarily. So I think they'll get their chance to vote, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, John, that's all I had for you. Thank you for taking some time and talking to everybody. John Komen, running for Mason County PUD number 3, Commissioner District 2. He's a challenger. It's a tough road to haul. Thank you, John.
Thank you.